Michael Jackson was the most famous human being on the planet. He sold more records than anyone in history, revolutionized the landscape of pop culture, and possessed a level of global adoration that bordered on religious fervor. Yet, in the final years of his life, the man who had the entire world watching his every move was terrified. He spent his remaining days telling his family, his close friends, and his bodyguards that a coordinated group of people were going to murder him. He wasn't afraid of obsessed fans or a random stalker. He was afraid of the system. He explicitly warned that someone was going to kill him for his music catalog, an asset worth over $1 billion. For years, the public dismissed these claims as the erratic paranoia of an eccentric recluse. The tabloids had already painted him as a fading star, losing his grip on reality. But when you strip away the circus of the media and examine the forensic timeline of his life and his death, the narrative shifts from a tragic pop culture punchline to a chilling financial trap. His fears was not unfounded delusions. They were a completely accurate assessment of his horrifying reality. To understand how Michael Jackson became trapped, you have to look at how he was broken, both physically and financially. In 1984, while filming a Pepsi commercial, pyrotechnics exploded too close to his head, inflicting severe second-degree burns on his scalp. To manage the excruciating pain and the subsequent reconstructive surgeries, he was prescribed opioids. It was the entry point into a pharmaceutical labyrinth that he would never fully escape. Simultaneously, his body was turning against him. He was diagnosed with vitiligo, an autoimmune condition that destroyed his skin pigmentation. While the media mercilessly mocked him, accusing him of bleaching his skin out of self-hatred, Jackson was quietly retreating behind closed doors, relying heavily on a rotating cast of doctors to numb the physical and psychological toll of a lifetime under the microscope. But the true danger wasn't pharmaceutical, it was financial. In 1985, Jackson made what is arguably the most brilliant business maneuver in the history of the music industry. He purchased the ATV music publishing catalog, securing the rights to the bedrock of 20th century popular music, including the majority of the Beatles' legendary hits. He bought it for $47.5 million. By 2009, his stake in that catalog was valued at approximately $1 billion. It was a golden asset, but it also became a set of golden handcuffs. Despite his staggering net worth on paper, Jackson was functionally insolvent. Decades of lavish spending, exorbitant legal defense costs from two massive, grueling trials, and crushing interest rates had left him $500 million in debt. He had borrowed heavily against his share of the catalog. If he defaulted, he could lose everything he had built. He was cornered. In the eyes of the corporate machine, Michael Jackson was rapidly becoming a man who was worth significantly more dead than he was alive. Now, desperation breeds exploitation. To save his empire from financial annihilation, Jackson agreed to a comeback residency in London titled This Is It, backed by the massive concert promoter AEG Live. What started as 10 shows was rapidly expanded to 50. The corporate exposure was enormous. But behind the scene, the star of the show was violently deteriorating. During rehearsals, the director sent frantic emails to AEG executives describing Jackson as lost and incoherent. He was trembling, cold to the touch, unable to remember choreography he had performed thousands of times. The director pleaded to bring in a top psychiatrist. The response from AEG's CEO was to stop playing amateur doctor and to push the artist forward. Enter Dr. Conrad Murray. Conrad was not a board-certified anesthesiologist. He was a financially ruined cardiologist facing eviction, drowning in court judgments, and desperately needing a paycheck. AEG Live agreed to pay him $150,000 a month to be Jackson's personal physician, with a contract structured so that his payment depended on the concerts moving forward. The conflict of interest was egregious, and to keep the severely insomniac star functioning, Conrad was tasked with doing the unthinkable. He was administrating propofol, a powerful intravenous surgical anesthetic, nightly in a residential bedroom with zero emergency monitoring equipment, just to simulate sleep. The anatomy of Michael Jackson's final hours reads less of a tragic accident and more like a clinical execution by gross negligence. On the night of June 24, 2009, Jackson returned from rehearsal and could not sleep. Over the next 14 hours, Dr. Conrad pumped his patient full of a terrifying cascade of sedatives: Valium, Ativan, Versed. Escalating doses of heavy tranquilizers pushed into a body so conditioned to pharmaceutical sedation that he remained awake. Finally, at approximately 10:14 the next morning, Conrad administered the lethal dose of propofol. By 10:15, Michael Jackson was unconscious. What followed is a 47-minute gap that defies any medical logic. While his patient lay unconscious under general anesthesia, without a single oximeter or capnography monitor attached, Dr. Conrad made personal calls. 47 minutes of phone calls while the greatest entertainer in the world stopped breathing. When Conrad finally realized his patient was in cardiac arrest, he did not immediately call 911. According to bodyguard testimony, Conrad frantically scrambled to hide the medical vials and conceal the IV bag of propofol before allowing anyone to call any ambulance. When he attempted CPR, he performed it on a soft mattress, rendering the compressions completely useless. By the time paramedics finally arrived, Jackson's body was already cold. He was pronounced dead at UCLA Medical Center at age 50. The immediate aftermath was swift and highly sanitized. The coroner ruled it a homicide. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter for administering a lethal surgical anesthetic in a bedroom and leaving his patient to die while taking phone calls. Conrad was sentenced to 4 years. Due to prison overcrowding, he served exactly 2. But the true fallout of Michael Jackson's death isn't found in a jail cell. It is found in the ledgers. The financial windfall that followed his passing was staggering. The man who died $500 million in the red became the highest-earning dead celebrity in the world. The documentary of his final rehearsals grossed hundreds of millions. The estate cleared every cent of its massive debt and went on to generate billions of dollars post-mortem. Now, what about the catalog? The very asset Jackson warned his family would get him killed. Well, in 2016, Sony Corporation paid $750 million to acquire Jackson's 50% stake in Sony ATV catalog. And in 2024, Sony acquired half of his remaining publishing and recorded masters for a staggering $600 million. They finally secured the catalog that Michael Jackson swore he would never, ever sell. The legal system declared Michael Jackson's death the tragic consequence of medical incompetence by a rogue, financially desperate doctor. The corporate promoters were found not liable. The billion-dollar debts were cleared, and the catalogs changed hands, just as the executives had always wanted. But when you look at the missing 47 minutes, the hidden vials, the ignored emails, and the astronomical wealth generated by his final breath, you have to ask yourself a very dark question. Was the death of the King of Pop merely a tragic accident of negligent medical care? Or was it the perfect, legally bulletproof assassination of an asset worth billions?